We are back with another Underrot. This time we're doing a review of Phil, whatever. I'm not sure exactly what he wants to be called, but yeah, he had watched the previous video we did of Wakansi's Underrot, and he was hoping that we could help him out as well here. This is, I think he said, only his second 21, and I guess, yeah, playing Blood DK here. So step one, definitely a big pull out of the gate, and that is exactly what we do. This is an incredibly annoying dungeon for a Sanguine. So yeah, unfortunately, you're gonna have a lot of work here as a Blood DK. The thing about Sanguine is you have every tool you need to actually be able to do it. It's just so much work, and it just gets to be a lot of just watching nobody else help, man. It gets old real quick. But yeah, no bad. I would normally pull the ticks, but I guess you don't even really need the ticks. I'd be interested in seeing what the rest of the route looks like. But normally I would get the ticks up there. But I think that's just because people would aggro them a lot early on, so that's why I started pulling them. But yeah, you probably don't need them, and you're probably still good on count. But yep, as you see here, this is why this dungeon sucks, because there's a lot of mobs that just move wherever they want. So that mob moved to the other side of Sanguine, and there, see what I mean? It just does whatever it wants. So, oh, okay, there you go. And so this is why Sanguine sucks, because it's displacing the group. We have a group come down, or a member of the group come down and aggro this pack before we're ready. Luckily, the other mob looks to be dead, no problem. Sanguine does not die right underneath, because this mask is really bad. So as Blood DK, one cool thing about Sanguine is that you can actually manipulate it by standing still. So you can grip it. Yeah, I think you maybe even did it just there. And usually the puddle is small enough that, yeah, you can be in melee range of the spirit, for example, and the priests or whatever could still be far enough away that they will not die and have Sanguine drop underneath. So that's exactly what we're doing here. Very well done. That's masterful right there, honestly. And that's that. So yeah, tough week in general. Definitely a lot harder than a lot of the other weeks. But um, I also say we have Rune Tap, which I'm surprised by. I have not used Rune Tap at all this season. I don't really feel like I would ever see myself needing it in keys. Every once in a while, I get hit really hard, but it's usually hard to predict. Not really. The thing Rune Tap used to be really good for in the past was that you'd basically get a free spell to use on the pull, because by the time you'd cycle through all the runes, you'd have it back. That rune would just basically be free if you use it right as the pull starts, or even maybe a second before. But yeah, now with so many other CDs, Blood DK doesn't really feel like they need that reliably. It happens once or twice throughout the dungeon, but I'm not really feeling like I need it. So I don't know exactly what the talents look like, but maybe something to think about there, especially on the Tyrannical week. But Fortified, it's a little bit more needed. I just can't, especially like in 21, I just can't see it too much. But to be honest, I've been leveling and playing a new Death Knight, fresh DK, and that character's been getting hit really hard. So maybe I should try it out. But this fight's a bit buggy, as we see yet again. Same bug. This has been going on all season now. You're getting hit by the mechanic from behind, and that's not normally a good thing. Yeah, see, people are talking about it in the chat. It's not really a good thing in the world of purgatory being used. You know what I mean? We really don't want to have purgatory wasted like that, especially coming up to this. This is very annoying trash. And here's where we get into some really bad Sanguine issues here, because there's just so many mobs, so many patrols, and there's a ready area denial. You see those green mechanics on the ground mean area denial. Now, that being said, I would definitely recommend pulling way bigger than this. But I guess it just doesn't really matter. The timer in here is pretty loose, especially on the lower keys. And all you're really worried about is just not accidentally aggroing stuff when you're not ready for it. But I do think you want to get that at least one tick every time, because there's, oh, yeah, so we come really close to aggroing that. That happens all the time, especially on Sanguine Week. But yeah, I think you want to get that tick out early, because, yeah, see, dangerously close to getting 2 ticks here. Typically, we want to avoid whatever the blood swarmers, whatever they're called. Typically, we want to avoid fighting 2 of these at once, and that's because it's going to dramatically lower whoever's DPS it's on, because they're going to be fiddling with it. And as the Blood DK, if there's just one, you can pretty much manipulate it, keep it locked down the whole time, so the player doesn't have to worry about it. But if there's 2, then yeah, that can't be done anymore. So you see, this is why it sucks, because we're just constantly dragging mobs out of other area denials. Where is this? I guess the evoker died. I can't even tell. I don't even know. He just didn't come back or something like that. He just die on the. I can't really tell. We have some like crazy. I've never seen this before. What is that up here? This is pretty unique. I've never seen that before. In terms of UI, we always talk about it. This, do you feel like this is useful? I don't know. Is that, what is that? That's the runes, I guess? You have 2 rune trackers. I don't know what that is. That doesn't look like, I'd maybe get rid of that one. But if you like it, yeah, maybe just move the current stuff up. I feel like there's a lot of new tanks they think like, oh, well, I just need help weak or wise, so I'm just gonna download stuff. But like, you end up tracking stuff that you just don't really need to track, right? Like, I don't know. I never really understood tracking something like rune tap and death and decay. Like those things are not, they're up all the time. You don't need to track them. And even like the Blizzard default has death and decay stuff. So just make a little weak ore for tracking like you standing in D&D and the duration of it, and that's pretty much all I've ever needed. So I think like compacting things and get rid, like, do we need like icy talons being tracked? Like those things we can get rid of. A lot of the auxiliary stuff that doesn't really need to be tracked, we can get rid of, and then you can compact everything into a smaller block, and it will be far easier for you to look at without having to look at it. That was always my issue with UI, and that's why my UI looks the way it does, because I'm trying to find a like the least stuff I need to track possible, the biggest it can be, basically. Like if it was up to me, it would be the whole fucking screen, because I always want to know exactly what the CD is on it without having to actually look at it. So, like that's what a true heads-up display is. It's supposed to overlay stuff you're already looking at, so you don't have to look at it. And obviously, WoW struggles with that because things are, the screen is so wide and so big, but yeah, it can still be done. Now, so yeah, so here we have a pretty, and that's just a missed. I think you just missed that, right? Like, surely we don't want to pull it like that two ticks in a row, but um, yeah. See, the guy's even complaining. Can we pull like normal? I can't play like this. What does he even mean? This guy an evoker. An augmentation evoker. What do you, bro? You're here as a carry. Like, shut up. I don't really, you're completed as a spec that literally just buffs other specs. All right, yeah, we're really worried about you playing well. It's pretty funny. Anyway, definitely want to combine these mobs here. Let's see if we end up doing it. It's a little bit harder on Sanguine. Yeah, so big thing here is like you definitely gotta these pulls of these big AoE pulls. You definitely want to pull a little bit more. So I always take this pack into the worm, or if you're in a situation where you've pulled like certain, sometimes it happens. It happened to me a bunch this week. You can pull this pack with just the 2 ticks from before, and I like that a lot. But doing it like this is really, 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 really bad on Sanguine. Okay, somebody saved you there because that was not gonna go well. You want to get this horror, whatever this big, more grotesque horror, you want to get this ASAP. This thing needs to die first, especially in Pug situations, because you do not want this mob stuck in Sanguine because it cannot move. So we do have one of the mobs just sitting in Sanguine. It's just such a boring fix. It's just such like a man. It requires a lot of effort and everything. So I don't know what we're doing now. This guy's fucking aggro and shit for you. Oh man, that's annoying. That's why pugging is so annoying, because this guy's just like, that's, you don't want to pull that. You have Lust backup. You should be going backwards now to get Lust to. I don't know though, man. I've been having a lot of trouble with this third boss instead, so I could even see just Lust in here. But obviously, we do not want to. I don't know. What are we going to just go this way and skip the second boss? I guess we are. So yeah, people may be just doing this now. I still think the second boss, like I said in the last video. Okay, no, I guess not. So that guy just pulled stuff for absolutely no reason then, because he's an idiot. Sounds about right. But yeah, no, I still think this boss is far better to Lust, just because it's got so much movement and it's such a potentially a long fight. So this fight is really made easy now with the new AMS talents. It used to be pretty hard, but now we have AMS up for every single one. If you take the talent, it makes it like 45 seconds or whatever. So just AMS this, and that's pretty much it. Looks like we got click on a couple spells too. We've talked about this a lot in the past. Really, like hitting the key is hard as well. I do that too, but One thing I will say about like clicking, it's like not the end of the world, but if you are gonna click, I would suggest using like the new UI technology to get these spells in better spots because you really, and I think that's probably why we're having maybe some issues with the UI because this is common, especially if you're clicking spells. You're not really looking at the UI, are you? You're looking at the spells. Like you can't really click and not look at the actual button you're clicking, no matter how good you are at it. So you might as well just either. So this is my recommendation. Now that you have full access to this from the Blizzard UI, I would recommend making a. Well, you can't really see it now because of that, but anyway, I would recommend making a new bar and just putting all the spells you want to click on it and put it like here, right? Or here or somewhere else on the screen that you can click them and not need to look all the way down at the bottom of the screen, right? Like that's the best actual part of the new UI changes. Fully customizable. You can make them really big too. I was actually considering doing this. Wow, it's a lot of ticks. Oh, wow. Anyway, yeah, I was thinking about doing this instead of weak ores. Like you can just make really big clickable bars. The only reason I didn't do it is because you can't control the minimum amount of space in between the buttons, and I don't like that look at all. I'd rather have them like flush right up against each other. So, but yeah, otherwise, you know, also looks like we have like two bone shield trackers right next to each other. So yeah, I would definitely if you feel like you're having trouble on the character, look on cleaning up some of this info. It gets brought up all the time on this channel. People like make fun of me, bully me, whatever you want to say about the UI, but like to me, man, it works and it works for a reason because there's the minimum amount of stuff tracked all in a giant clump. You can't miss it no matter where you're looking at the screen. And, especially with now that I add like those flashing things to the CDs coming up, I think that's it, man. I really do. I think people sleep on that, especially if you're new and you're not like developed great muscle memory with the class yet. Having that kind of, UI is very, very, very useful compared to what these stock UIs look like, where there's just this long bar that's kind of, it's so small that you can't even, you'd really have to be staring at it to see it. You know what I mean? Looks like the group is doing a terrible job on this fight, as no surprises ever is literally constantly happening. But yeah, we can still hit these. I've seen people do it where you just stand in the middle and you can actually hit them still. It's a pretty wide cone, so not the end of the world. But uh, well, we just didn't do it. I guess before they actually broke the ones that you were trying to hit with the frontal, so the frontal just didn't hit anything or something. But yeah, definitely what I like to do is drag the boss over because it's like a visual, like you are committing to it visually, you know what I mean? You're telling the group which ones you're going to hit. Whereas kind of keeping them in the middle, probably a lot of people aren't going to see it at a glance. But you can definitely get more than this too. If you're going to keep it in the middle and not keep it in between them, you want to just try to keep it in the actual like closer to the middle because then the spray gets a little bit wider. So like those few that you soaked there, that was just because you didn't have the tank mechanic positioned properly. But I don't know, the dungeon's so easy. I think he said that this was his first or his like second 20. Let's see exactly what he says. Technically, it's my second fortified 21. So yeah, Underrot's so easy. I would love to see if you want to send in some other dungeons, especially any dungeon that you feel like is a good representative. But I assume we're smashing this because it looks like it's going to be an easy upgrade. But I like this little block here, though. It's pretty cool. I wonder what that add-on is. It shows, like, I guess, like a comparison of your best as well or something like that. It's pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, you can... Well, I think we actually need this mob. I'd be interested in see what the rest of the count looks like because a couple things that normally get pulled. God, this guy is insufferable, man. I can't stand people like this, man. Any kicks? Yeah, bro. How about you? Well, it looks like your weak core isn't updated either. I had this problem too. Now that Ogvoker is in the game, yeah, we don't have a like you have to update it because it doesn't show Ogvoker, because before it wasn't even a spec, so it's not coded into the weak cores and stuff. But yeah, this is definitely a Pretty easy dungeon to tank no matter what week it is. It's just a sanguine that really sucks. So I always like to stun these mobs. I guess a lot of people aren't running the stun though. I don't know. I can't imagine doing keys without strangulate. It's so useful in simples, but nothing really. Yeah, nothing really to comment on Blood DK. I think it's pretty strong, to be honest. I think it's not well rounded right now, but its defense is insanely strong where it is strong, and the set bonus is really really good for him. So we'll see what the set bonus looks like in the future. That was his footage. We'll see what the set bonus looks like in the future, but as of right now in season 2, I think it's the strongest. It's a good set bonus for what we want too. I feel like not maybe not a lot of people wanted to run Umbilicus, but I love it, and it plays in so well. Hard to not take it, I feel like, at this point. But also, I don't see the well, I'm not exactly sure how much use it's getting, but one thing that I still struggle with to myself is using Death Caress during Dancing Rune Weapon. It's like a really you gain a lot of value. I'm not very good at keeping up Bone Shield myself, but we see ourselves low Bone Shield quite a lot. So Tombstone not really being used a lot, and that's probably why. Like high use of Tombstone is going to dramatically improve both your offense and your defense, and you gotta just try to keep Bone Shield up, like, because otherwise you're just wasting. That you're just spending all kinds of runes trying to maintain it. That's the one thing. Like I hated Tombstone. Yeah, like we just went that whole pack and didn't use it. I'll take another look at the footage after this because obviously this is an easy upgrade. But yeah, we went in Shadowlands. We tried to use Tombstone, and man, it was difficult. But now with the talents, you just get so much free Bone Shield. So I actually need 3% here still. It's interesting. Do we get that from? Yeah, so that's probably why you want to just grab the ticks at the start. I don't think this is enough, is it? Or is it? And am I wrong about that? It doesn't really matter, man. The route in here is just so easy to run and just nothing to it. But that's probably the difference if this doesn't give enough count, which it does not. Yeah, so just grab the ticks at the start. Same route, ticks on the right side or left side, whichever side you want to run to. And then you're good. You don't have to pull this extra mob. This is a really inefficient mob to fight, a single mob, especially considering it can actually kill people. It shouldn't happen when you're fighting one, but you'd be surprised. Everybody all tries to interrupt at the same time, and then you know, then you have some issues in the pug, especially considering the Ogvoker's already demonstrated that he's not aware of how pug interrupts may work. Yeah, this fight, another great one for Blood DK. AMS has huge value here, and also the extra D&Ds can have huge value too, because those spores, they don't not need to die, you know what I mean? Like you can kill them. They're not needing to die most times, but every once in a while it starts really piling up. And yeah, throwing out a D&D out there, especially when you have one in the bank, it's really nice. And kill like a couple dozen of them with one D&D. So sometimes it's really needed, and it'll save the group a lot of hassle, because if they get too close, then you're really going to have trouble. But yeah, this boss is getting hammered. You can see the DPS on the left. It's pretty small, but Fire Mage powerful. Holy Pally doing 60k as well. That's nice. Ogvoker has just done so much for the way the game is being played right now, which I'm glad to see healers also embracing it, because man, that's the biggest sad part. If you have an Ogvoker and you have a healer that isn't doing damage, it's like, okay, well, that's like a big part of why Ogvoker is good, Basically have like one person benefiting from it then at that point, whoever your top damage usually is. So yeah, looks like this is a chalk run, man. This was certainly not not one that you need help on, that's for sure. Easy mode. But let's go back and look at some of the gameplay specific stuff, and I will tell you right now, I can already tell we definitely want to work on the clicking of spells, especially a spell like AMS, man. You just can't, like that, and Tombstone, you really just can't click those. Like, you can't be clicking them down at the bottom of the screen like that. That's just not going to work. They're too vital, they're too usable, and it's probably just causing you to use them way less than you might realize. So if you want to continue clicking them, which is kind of weird because you have keybinds for a lot of spells. Are you even clicking like a spell like Death Grip? Wow. And Interrupt. Yeah. So if you want to keep clicking these, I'm not going to tell you how to play your character, but let's just move it, right? Like, what's the point of having it down there now? I don't really see it. So yeah, just go into the edit mode, make a new bar, because you don't even need to keybind that bar, right? You can just put whatever you want on it. You don't even have to get rid of them on the bar that you have, which is probably a good thing for you because I know a lot of people, they look at it and then they kind of develop that muscle memory by looking at it. So just keep it down there if you need to for now, and then just slowly wean yourself off it. And yeah, you can just put them like on the side, or I guess, if you like this kind of horizontal, UI, you can put them. Honestly, you can probably just get rid of the weak horse. But yeah, like all of this stuff, like you certainly don't need to be tracking desk caress. You certainly don't need to be tracking something like, battle res. You can have its own monitor somewhere else. Like a lot of these spells that are technically blood DK spells, they just don't, like, the CD just doesn't matter. It's too short of a CD. You're basically just pressing it in rotation anyway. I don't see any value to having all of that. And like I said, I know a lot of people don't like the way my UI looks and is set up, but it's not. There's nothing on it that isn't needed in my gameplay, and that's what you want to try to find, because you end up with a lot of bloat, and then it tricks your brain into like, do we really need, like, what is it that we're looking at with Death Strike? 9%, is that like the big Death Strike thing? That's why I like the health bar. You can dump these. You really don't like. I don't know what this is. This is like a DPS thing or an arena thing or something like that. You have Plater. Well, I assume that's Plater. You have an add-on that's showing you the health of the mob that's standing right in front of you. Why do you need the health bar down here? I never understood that. Like, I see a lot of people do that, but that's completely pointless. Everything that's being shown here is also shown right here. You have the target. Well, you can tell because Plater changes colors. You have the cast bar. Well, you can tell because the Plater has the cast bar, which is just way better than the default cast. Like, that's just not needed. So what you can do is you can dump that, move this into the center, dump all this bottom row nonsense that isn't needed, compact all of this into a much better area. You can like combine the Death Strike stuff into the health bar. That's what I've done. And then you can use that extra space to put the spells that you're clicking right underneath it. And it'll make like, I've talked about this in the past. Like, clicking is not inherently unusable. A lot of people have said over the years that it's just objectively worse than key binding. And the reason they say that is because people who click tend to do it like this, where they're not, like, they have to move their mouse from the middle of the screen all the way to the bottom. They have to move their eyes all the way to the bottom. And for the most part, people believe that it causes you to stare at your buttons, which it may or may not, depending on how comfortable you are. I know a guy who was a clicker start to finish, and he was one of the best raiders we ever had. And he got so good at clicking that he didn't even have to look at the buttons. You know what I mean? Like, he knew where to move the mouse, just like we're talking about with the UI. Like, he had them in a spot that he didn't even have to really look at them. So that's should be the goal if you're gonna keep and like, to click spells, especially like Vamp Blood and AMS that have such short and such usability. Yeah, I don't. It's just not really gonna work. I feel. I don't really recommend that, and I think that's, if you're gonna die, it's gonna be because of that. So, yeah, I don't know. Oh, I see. On the left is actually the. I was like, how are there 0 deaths at this point? But anyway, yeah, I think that's. Obviously, a lot of guys watching are also Blood DK, so you guys can give more tips. But to me, obviously, you do everything you need to survive and upgrade this key. There's not a single. I think your purgatory only procced a single time, so looks clean to me. Obviously, it's only a 21, but this is a pretty hard week. So if you have any questions or anything else, let me know, man. Otherwise, thanks for submitting this. Thanks for becoming a Patreon, I believe. And yeah, I'm out there looking for people's milestones, especially if you're doing your first 20s. If you're doing anything that you feel is a milestone, you think it was a successful key. Let's just celebrate each other's success, man. Especially this late in the season, it feels like this is the time. If you're looking for milestones to build on and move forward, now's the time. But thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.